Moscow Zoo. We saw the mass grave at the Moscow Zoo. A sullen man dug up a human skull and held it high for journalists to view. Forensic specialists arrived to cull remains and clues from this forgotten plot on which the zoo still plans to cage a reporter. The experts guessed these prisoners were shot for special reasons. No one was aware of comparable scenes at urban sites. No one knew if these bones belonged to spies, suspected Jews, or zealot Trotskyans. So none of us displayed the least surprise when bureaucrats emerged from quiet cars to hint this might have been the work of czars. Alternative facts from 25 years ago. So for my next trip, I need not only a volunteer, I need a whole room of volunteers. So there's a refrain here that I'm going to ask you to repeat, and I'll signal you by lifting my right hand up like this. But let's practice first, all right? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, wait, I didn't tell you what you have to say. You have to say law shielded. Law shielded. Law, L-A-W, shielded. All right, let's since I'm a little rocky this morning. Blah, 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 blah. Law shielded. Good. A litany of squandered grace. A linebacker's body, a cherub's smile, patter assails me. Collar loosened, a mother's face left as black as rotting fruit. Raped sons and raped daughters, bludgeoned lovers, one-time payments. Parish transfers, Desert Storm chaplaincy, VA benefits. Quiet South Boston retirement, collar still on. But I appreciate the enthusiasm. I do. Can't take me anywhere where I spill water all over my table. Answer prayer. Dear Lord, please flood her nerves with sedatives and keep her strong enough to crack a smile, so disbelieving friends and relatives can temporarily sustain denial. Please smite that intern in oncology who craves approval from department heads. Please ease her urge to vomit. Let there be kind but flirtatious men in nearby beds. Given her hair, consider amnesty for sins of vanity. Make mirrors vanish. Surround her with forgiving family and nurses not too numb to cry. Please banish trite consolations. Take her in one swift and gentle motion as your final gift. Yeah. A little louder?
I'll bring it up.
Testing. Copy in the back. Note from Echo. Narcissus will no longer haunt the canyons and the crypts. I thrive and multiply. Uncounted daughters are my new companions. We are the voicemail's ponderous reply to the computers making random calls. We are the Muzak in the empty malls, the laugh track on the reruns late at night, the distant sirens chilling lullaby, the steady chirp of things that simplify their scheduled lives. You know I could recite more, but you never cared for my recitals. I do not miss you, do not need you here. I can repeat the words of your disciples, telling lovers what they need to hear. Threat levels. The level yesterday was red, the color of the splattered dead. The level for today is green, though the chatter grows obscene. Tomorrow's level will be gray, as light is lost throughout the day. It's my little adventure into Anglo-Saxon alliterative verse. 3 visitors on Christmas Eve. Mist on moonspill as midnight nears. Adrift but not dreaming, our drowsy sun is covered and kissed. At the kitchen door, our old basset is barking. Out back, coyotes are standing like statues down by the dogwoods. Across the crystal of crusted snow, they search for stragglers to startle and chase. Their vigil reveals no victims this night. Trash would be trouble. They trot away unbothered by blood-throated baying and growling. No star distracts their stealthy march. As the highway hums, they howl through the calm, then savor new scents that spice their path in this world awash in wonder and wrath. So I'll say this, we have some young people in the audience. So Mr. Wizard was the Bill Nye science guy of my generation, so that's probably all you need to know. Farewell, Mr. Wizard. I conjure NBC in black and white. You drop dry ice and water, fog is rising. You sell us Celsius and Fahrenheit. I lose you in the cloud of advertising, Winston, Esso, Zenith, Mr. Clean, those 30-second breaks for Ovaltine, then smile at Bunsen burners and balloons, more ropes and pulleys. You are mesmerizing as familiar things become surprising. I dream of robots, ray guns, Mars and moons, and know for sure our Chevrolet will fly. Poof, static. I can't make your show go on. Space shuttles fall, the pumps are running dry. Jihadists shop for warheads. Godspeed, Dawn. Fruit flies. They are the best as pest invasions go. No bites and no disease, just clouds of small tan smudges spawned in week old grapes. Though slow, they flip and frustrate like a knuckleball. You kill a few, but not enough. You curse as you're outsmarted by their tiny brains. Bug spray could hurt you more than them. What's worse, you know that they keep breeding in your drains. Pour some white wine into a dish and wait. They sense the sweetness, then the alcohol. They cluster on the rim and hesitate, but soon cannot resist your Riesling's call. They soak in joy, relax, then drink no more. It's no surprise, we've seen it all before. A Midsummer Night's Hangover. Bottom finds novel uses for his ears and muzzle, thus persuading everyone he is indeed an ass. Titania slips away with Oberon, and somehow lust erupts in ways that were unseen on stage. Beer flows, and fairies dance until the dawn. The players wake to a diminished world and mourn the lost bewitchment of their night. Light pummels their defense of lidded eyes, and parents speak in painful decibels. To add more anguish, Mr. Henderson insisted that they strike the set at noon. Dyspeptic Puck yanks birches from their stands, mechanicals unhook the fruitless moon. Demetrius considers Helena in jeans, and mopes as he recalls her strands of spotless hair. Fair Hermia still beams and reaches for Lysander in her dreams. So, in East Africa, there's a language spoken by 25 million people called Oromo. They don't have a country. They're more in Kenya than anyplace else, but they're scattered across 4 countries. And they've got a very rich poetry tradition with strong rhythm and rhyme. And anthropologists have collected a lot of their proverbs. It's only been a written language in the last 5 to 10 years. So I started on this for over 20 years. For a quarter century, I'm still the only person that's taken the book of these proverbs out of the Harvard Library, which somehow amuses me knowing. East African proverbs. Let the relentless fist be kissed. The salt cannot be cooked. The past is overlooked. Full once they nibble, fleas quibble. Teeth in a hyena's face always slide into place. No donkey can cart what weighs down your heart. Outside, a man is respected. At home, that man is neglected. The strangers weep and leave. Family members grieve. Even half-blind men hope to see again. True words end, lies extend. And that got me thinking about proverbs and cliches, and in a weird way led to this. Proposed cliches. Softer than an old potato, too moldy to mash. More user-friendly than a hooker, hard up for cash. Love is like a hard-time sentence, but better than cancer. Ask not what your country can do, for fear of the answer. I got much better response to that. Beauty beheld is merely skin deep. Infections are deeper. The price of honesty is steep. Candidates are cheaper. The drowning man may clutch at straws, but his sipping is pathetic. Burn the candle at both ends if you want to wax poetic. You can call off your dogs, but your cats will ignore you. If actuaries had wings, they still would just bore you. An apple a day keeps the doctor away, but not your disease. Blood is thicker than water, except when they freeze. It's just spilt milk under the bridge, so don't be big babies. If you're crazy like a fox, get tested for rabies. So, this is the Billy Collins book that Alfred mentioned. And I know what you're all thinking. Like, if the guy was just on a diet, he'd look just like Billy Collins, right? So these aren't me. These are all in the voice of Billy Collins. Love poem. They say you have to love yourself to love another. And so, for you, dear, only for you, I am focusing on myself. I wore my silk pajamas all day long, in case the moment was right. Mid-morning, my yellow roses arrived. I was touched by my gesture, but before long they wilted in the kitchen window. Later I sent myself chocolate, rich, erotic chocolate. But within minutes it made me feel fat. A passionate note to myself only ignored my issues, and I never seemed to talk to myself anymore. I had even become insensitive to my own needs. Perhaps, my love, the answer is couples therapy. Taxonomy. Readers familiar with my persona imagine someone gentle and literate. They would be not for a loop to recognize I categorize those around me as animals, fish, or insects. I have neighbors, a hippo and a flamingo. No wonder they are childless. There's an editor who's a jackal, a poet who's a feral poodle, and a beady-eyed reporter who is, to be sure, a moray eel. My attorney is a praying mantis, or perhaps an atheist mantis, who stands impossibly tall and thin. She rubs her long fingers incessantly, nibbles on my green cash. Casually, she rips off the heads of other hapless mantises and gnaws on their skulls. The lifeless faces of her victims always have the same blank, alien stare as hers. I don't want anyone to be offended by this next one, because remember, it's Billy Collins, it's not me. A little bit of a hint of Robert Frost here. The purpose of good fences. I spent the afternoon laconically fixing pickets on my fence to keep out poets. They are so needy. What with their posing, their banalities, their long and painful introductions to dull poems, and their well-honed backstabbing. Did I mention my leg trap? Leg trap, sorry. Crowded skies. As a matter of fact, I did notice a sow followed by a string of piglets, straining to stay airborne with their unfamiliar wings as they crossed my line of vision outside the kitchen window. Then the doorbell rang, and I found a crisply dressed but sumptuous woman at my door. She announced she was from the Registry of Motor Vehicles, apologized for the long lines of the past, and handed me my new license. When she asked if there was anything else she could do for me, I had a failure of imagination. Then the phone throbbed. It was Blue Cross Blue Shield. Apologizing for the 3 years they spent trying to bill me for a very expensive hysterectomy I never had. They said they had fired the incompetents, simplified everything, and my next operation was on them. When the mail came that afternoon, there was a sweet-smelling, handwritten note from the cheerleader who rejected my invitation to the junior prom. She regretted any distress her handling of that matter might have caused me. I gather air traffic controllers are up in arms about the crowded skies, but they will work it out, I'm sure. All right, one more of these, and then I'll pick up the pace. So, first I want to say, I wrote this in June of 2015. So if you think you hear topical satire, this all happen later. So. Warning, I'm not one of those yahoos who shouts down science on Fox News. No, not at all. I accept the scientific consensus that the Earth is starting to simmer, like the potato leek and kale soup on my stove, just more slowly. What bothers me is that these sideshows have paralyzed discourse, particularly the customary assignments of blame. Why aren't we looking at who stands to gain from global warming? To me, it is clear they are lurking just off our shores. You must know who I mean. The dolphins. Think of them as our replacements. Their brains are larger than ours, and you just know they were out there, frolicking in ways we can only dream of, cackling sociopathically about how they understand our language, but we can't grasp the basics of theirs. Apparently they have a poem on the subject that mocks our lack of vocabulary for vital features of fish. It is not difficult at all to believe that their plans are already set. Races in the shallows that were Central Park, urination on the Trump Tower signage, searches for cash within the flooded basements of Wall Street. Dolphin the only creatures feared by sharks. Shouldn't we be somewhat terrified? Many of you have noticed that our poet laureate is coming to the end of his 2-year term, which makes this poem relevant yet again. Honest email to the Librarian of Congress. Attached, please find my resume. I see your website says today you're searching for a laureate. For me, it's not the glory it bestows upon the honoree. Lord knows I've taken on for free. Because for me, it is seductive to work while being unproductive. No weekly meetings to attend, no more expenses to defend. My repartee would not provoke those HR chats about some joke. Desk, paper, pen, humongous walls, I will accept if Congress calls. Although it's undeniable, unlabeled, unreliable, I often show up right on time. I write free verse, delight in rhyme, and blandly fake my way through speeches, just like a Harvard guy who teaches. The rehab stint has redefined me. The hygiene issue is behind me. Most people find my pit bull pleasant. No books are overdue at present. So, I'm going to read the next one at the risk of offending the wonderful poet who follows me, Alexander. But sometimes you just have to make a political statement. A stern warning to Canada. If you want peace, withdraw your geese. I believe that this is the oldest poem we have by a woman objecting to domestic violence. It's from the Middle Welsh, and it's a marvelous, marvelous, rarely translated poet named Gwerfyl Mechen. I was mispronouncing that for quite a while, but it's Mechen. To her husband for beating her. Though your heart's lining, through your heart's lining, let there be pressed, slanting down, a dagger to the bone in your chest. Your knee smashed, your hand crushed, may the rest be gutted by the sword you possessed. When it is translated, it's usually translated to my husband, but the Welsh is actually her husband, so there's ambiguity as to whether she's standing up for herself or standing up for a friend. But a marvelous poet in one of my new projects. Okay. Mismatch. I kept hoping she would come alone. She's a gem, but he's a kidney stone. A consolation of aging. Despite my thinning hair, no barber cuts his rate. At least the airlines care and do not charge by weight. Disclaimer. Yeah, you can't defend the airlines, I know. Disclaimer. Despite what's promised when you marry, actual results may vary. A short sequence of workplace poems. Your midlife crisis. You found yourself, but at an awful cost. We liked you better when you were lost. To my ambitious colleague, your uphill climb will never stop. Scum always rises. Confession to my colleague. I know that you will win in time. The rising sewage lifts all slime. One of the burdens that formal poets bear is the invective of hallmark poet or greeting card poet. It's what the establishment tends to call us. So like a lot of the press groups, I decided to embrace the label in order to minimize the sting. So I'd like to read some examples of my greeting card verse for offbeat occasions. Prostitution arrest. I was going to skip the next one. I know the press reported your alleged solicitation. And though it seems quite sordid, I just know you'll get probation. Food poisoning of guest. I'm sorry my Food poisoning of guest. I'm sorry my sashimi was rotting on the docks. Whenever you next see me, I'll only serve you lox. Botched intimate tattoo. Your tattoo artist was a jerk and sloppy in his spelling, but given where he put his work, nobody will be telling. And we'll just finish up with some epitaph poems. Epitaph for a star of reality shows. Despite his mansion in the Maid, he found more money to be made. Near death, he sold the broadcast rights for his last words and his last rites. How many of you took Psych 101 and know who B.F. Skinner is? Sometimes younger people know something. On the death of B.F. Skinner, the headlines were unanimous from Newsweek to Le Monde. No matter what the stimulus, B.F. did not respond. Candid headstone. Here lies what's left of Michael Juster, a failure filled with bile and bluster. Regard the scuttlebutt as true, dance on the grave, most others do. Thank you.